heartbreaking truth about Elvis and Priscilla Presley's love story. Not all epic love stories are long. Elvis Presley and Priscilla Presley continue to be a part of our culture almost 45 years after his passing. This is evident in everything from the footage of their 1967 wedding, in which the bouffant-wearing bride can be seen gazing lovingly into the eyes of her heartthrob husband, to their pictures with daughter Lisa Marie. Even if the happy days didn't endure forever, Priscilla continues to be the guardian of Elvis' legacy. After Vernon Presley, the singer's father, passed away in 1979, she was appointed co-executor of the King of Rock and Roll's estate. She has been crucial in maintaining Graceland as a tourist destination, though pilgrimage site might be more accurate, and her ex as one of the highest-earning deceased celebrities of all time. But even if Vernon had given the other person the castle's keys, the experience of falling in love with one of the most alluring persons ever to walk the globe wouldn't have vanished on its own. In 2017, Priscilla remarked to Entertainment Tonight, "He was such an impact in my life in every manner. He served as both my mentor and my confidant. This is what I stated in my book, Elvis and Me. He was all things. Because I lived and breathed him, I referred to him as my God in my book." How did Elvis Presley and Priscilla meet? Elvis was 24. The hound dog singer was apprehensive that being recruited into the U.S. Army in March 1958 would have an adverse effect on his rapidly advancing career. Just over a year and a half after his earth-shattering debut on The Ed Sullivan Show, when he sent his followers into fits of hysteria and frightened the strict types with his swaying hips, he had already sold millions of records and acquired Graceland, an 18-room home in Memphis. He had a penchant for luxury, as evidenced by his pricey furnishings and custom clothes, but he was also a mama's boy with an old-fashioned bent, particularly when it came to women acting like women, even while boys would be boys. Many people who knew him well thought he never recovered from the devastating loss of his mother Gladys on August 14, 1958. In a first-person account for People in 1985 coinciding with the release of her memoir, Priscilla recalled being introduced to Elvis at his rental house near the Army base in Bad Nauheim. The star asked her, "Well, what have we here? What are you, about a junior or senior in high school?" When she told him she was in 9th grade, he chuckled and said, "Why, you're just a baby." Then he strolled over to the piano and started singing. "I saw Elvis trying to get my attention," Priscilla remembered. "I noticed that the less response I showed, the more he began singing just for me. I couldn't believe that Elvis Presley was trying to impress me." She was just wearing a little sailor dress that night, she later remembered to UPI, because she could still barely believe she was going to meet Elvis. Priscilla was invited back to his house for another gathering. And another. On that third night, he invited her upstairs to be alone. She recalled to People, assuring her, "I swear I'll never do anything to harm you. I'll treat you just like a sister." When did Elvis start dating Priscilla? Although Priscilla's parents didn't like it at all, her stepfather urged they at least meet the man when it became evident she wouldn't stay away. When Elvis showed over for dinner, prepared to impress in full uniform, Paul asked him directly, "What do you want?" "Well, sir, I happen to be very fond of her." Priscilla remembered the man whose lower half was censored during his third appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show, telling her father, "She's a lot more mature than her age and I enjoy her company. It hasn't been easy for me, being away from home and all. It gets kinda lonely. I guess you might say I need someone to talk to. You don't have to worry about her, Captain. I'll take good care of her." Despite their technically unconsummated relationship, they became deeply involved, Priscilla told People. Something in his southern upbringing had taught him that the right girl was to be saved for marriage. I was that girl. At the same time, he molded me into his woman. I wore the clothes, hairstyle, and makeup of his careful choosing. Early on, she also started to resent having to share him with so many admirers. "It was only late in the evening, when we were in his bedroom, that I was truly happy," she told People. Where she described, they'd kiss and talk for hours. Priscilla has maintained that they never had sex until their wedding night, but as she began to fall behind in class, he offered her some pills one evening to help her stay awake the following day. When she later learned that they were dexedrine, amphetamines, that is, which Elvis started using when he joined the Army, she decided not to take them. When did Elvis and Priscilla reunite? When Elvis returned to the U.S. in March 1960, Priscilla was informed by paparazzi that Elvis had started dating Nancy Sinatra, the first of many stars he'd be linked to, before she got a call from him. 3 weeks after he left Germany, he finally did get in touch, and so began Priscilla's state of suspended animation, she told People. waiting for his infrequent calls. It would fluctuate between a few weeks and longer. When he encouraged her to come to Los Angeles in February 1962, they hadn't spoken in weeks and hadn't seen each other in 2 years, according to Priscilla. Elvis mailed her a round-trip first-class ticket for a 2-week stay after they persuaded her father, even yet, after a brief period of cuddling when she first arrived. He informed her that she couldn't spend the night at his house and had a member of his group transport her to a friend's house. Later, Priscilla learned that he had just recently shipped his purported ex-girlfriend Anita Wood back to Memphis, and that he had done this to keep his out-of-town guests from being there during any late-night phone calls. However, the visit, which included an opulent road trip to Las Vegas, was enthralling enough. There, Elvis bought her more clothing and warned her that he would find out if she was with a man other than him. When did Priscilla Presley first move to Graceland? Priscilla spent Christmas of 1962 at Graceland, and when she went back to Germany, she told her mother that Elvis wanted her to move to Memphis to finish high school. Priscilla could live with his father and stepmother, Elvis told Paul. Declaring his intentions honorable, he swore that he loved and needed and respected me, Priscilla told People. In fact, he couldn't live without me, he said, intimating that one day we'd marry. In that light, there was little my parents could do but say yes, and eventually they did. But the excursion, which included a lavish road trip to Las Vegas, was fascinating enough. Elvis gave her more clothing there and warned her that if she was with a male other him, he would find out. People have said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe your parents let you go with this stranger," Priscilla said on Good Morning America in 2017. But it was a very innocent time. I liked him very much. I certainly felt safe. We cannot compare it to today. We still had morals, high standard. There was a lot of care. Although he may not have been having as many liaisons with his co-stars as gossip would have it, Elvis wasn't exactly lived the life of a guy who was engaged. He was also starring in several films each year, all of which had stunning leading ladies. In those early years, life at Graceland was lonely for her, Priscilla acknowledged to Closer Weekly in 2017. For fear that fans would give up their own ambitions of being with Elvis and stop buying albums, called Tom Parker, Elvis' very active manager, didn't want it known that his prized client had a reliable girlfriend, and there weren't even any photos of the two around the house. Parker was kind to her, Priscilla added, but he just didn't want fans to know I was the one. And yet, sometimes Elvis picked her up from school in a limo and flew her out to LA when he was making movies. It was a lifestyle so outrageous, Priscilla told People in 1978, that I'm just thankful I've come out sane. In the end, Elvis stuck to the path he chose with Priscilla. He got down on one knee in her bedroom at Graceland just before Christmas 1966 and proposed with a 3/1/2-carat diamond ring by Memphis jeweler Harry Levitch, which was surrounded by 20 additional diamonds. The original Elvis-themed Las Vegas wedding. Parker had the engaged couple take a flight from Palm Springs to Las Vegas at about midnight on May 1, 1967, the day of their wedding, in an effort to keep things as secret as possible. Frank Sinatra lent his personal aircraft. As Priscilla recalled to Closer, they obtained their license at around 3 in the morning, and Judge David Zenoff of the Nevada Supreme Court celebrated their marriage ceremony in front of 14 guests in a room at the Aladdin Hotel. A brief press briefing was followed downstairs. My wedding was very unusual, Priscilla recalled last year, per Vogue. It was the people closest to us in private, and that's how we wanted it. We didn't want a fan club. We didn't want a circus. After the ceremony, Elvis quipped, "Well, I guess it was about time. With the life I had, I decided it would be best to wait."